Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Meet the Candidates Forum for the Office of the Commissioner of Public Works for the City of Saratoga Springs. There are 2 candidates on the ballot. Both candidates were invited and both accepted the invitation and are participating. This event was organized by the League of Women Voters of Saratoga County. It will be recorded and posted on the League's website. League rules require that if a candidate forum is recorded, it must be broadcast or rebroadcast in its entirety. My name is Anne Marie Pendergast, and I am a member of the League of Women Voters of Saratoga County. I live in the town of Greenfield, and I will be your moderator tonight. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan, volunteer political organization dedicated to the informed and responsible participation of citizens in government. The League never supports or opposes any political candidate or party. This has been League policy since 1920. Membership is open to anyone 16 years and over. So please consider joining the League. We have received messages from the public in advance. These were reviewed by League members and selected to be representative and to avoid redundancy. Questions of a personal nature are never included. Candidates, this is your opportunity to let voters know your stance on these topics and how you will address the issues facing this community. Please do not waste time tearing down or labeling your opponent. Deal with the facts. In your closing statements, absolutely no zingers or gotcha moments. Please don't put your opponent on the spot with no chance to reply. We have a timer for this evening's event who will be seen by the candidates on screen. The timer will hold up signs for the candidates to glance at and to let them know how much time they have left. The audience will not see these timers. Green means you have 1 minute left, yellow means 30 seconds, and red means stop. Time is up. If you continue to talk after time is up, you will be interrupted. The names of the 2 candidates this evening for the Commissioner of Public Works are, in alphabetical order, and this is as their names appear on the ballot, B.K. Karamati and Charles Marshall. Now we will hear their 2-minute opening statements. We have drawn lots to determine the order, and the first to speak tonight is Chuck Marshall.
Thank you. I'm Chuck Marshall. I'm currently the Commissioner of Public Works for the City of Saratoga Springs, and I have to say that it's nothing but a privilege to serve the community. My previous experience in government service has been as a member of the Saratoga County Sewer District and the Saratoga Springs Planning Board, where I ultimately ended up being chair. Prior to my involvement in public service, I received a bachelor's degree in communications from SUNY Potsdam, a master's degree in public administration from the Rockefeller School at SUNY Albany, and an undergraduate degree in civil engineering from Clarkson University. I live on the west side with my wife and 2 children, one who attends Division Street and one who attends Maple Ave. Being their father is probably the greatest, and their father and husband is probably the greatest privilege. But second to that is helping or serving the city and the city of Saratoga Springs and its residents. Since coming into office, I've done things like established the first leaf pickup schedule. We've worked through some, you can't see the timer, but I just got time. So worked through the first leaf schedule. We've paved more roads, almost double what we did in the year before, and managed the department from, taking it from where it is to where it's going. In order to establish a rapport with Mr. Karamati, in July, I sent him a letter, and in August, I hosted him into the office twice, and then ensured that he received a tour of the DPW garage and water treatment facility so that we can ensure a campaign based on issues, and I've upheld my end of that bargain. And that's it as far as me. I look forward to the remainder of the questions to show my knowledge of Saratoga Springs, the Department of Public Works, and what I bring forward to the citizens of the city.
Thank you, Chuck. Next, we'll hear from BK. BK, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Unmute. Okay, are we good now? Okay, good evening. First, I offer my gratitude to the League of Women Voters, whose members work tirelessly to keep voters informed. Thank you, League. As a retired PhD mechanical engineer, I have over 30 years of experience in solving problems, leading teams, and working in complex organizations. I know how to think out of the box, seek and incorporate from ideas from all sides, and get things done. I have a passion for our city, its city in the country feel. I support the idea of an urban core surrounded by a green belt, and I want to keep it that way. My priority number one is water, to make sure we have a safe and plentiful supply for years to come. Our current water infrastructure, including the main source of water in Loveberry Lake, are in peril. Loveberry Lake is degrading both in capacity and in quality. Overall, our water system has not been adequately maintained in the past 20 years, and the current administration is not taking it as seriously as it should. Speaking of water, there are areas of the city that have been experiencing flooding from the city's own storm sewer systems for years. People are really frustrated by this, and they deserve better. In summary, water will be my number one issue. I also want to see a transformation of DPW from a reactive organization fixing problems as they occur to a proactive one. My professional and life experience tell me this will be less expensive in the long run, and our citizens will be happier to have more reliable services with fewer interruptions. I'm asking for your vote so I can devote all my working hours to serving you with no conflicts of interest. Thank you.
Thank you, VK. Now it's time for questions. Candidates, you have up to 1.5 minutes to respond to a question. You're not required to respond. You may pass if you wish. Each candidate will be allowed 2 opportunities to ask for an additional minute. If you just raise your hand or signal to the timer that we can add another minute. This can only be done during the questions. You can't add a minute to the other opening or closing statement. Remember not to interrupt each other, and the timers and I will keep track of the time for the extra minute. Questions will be directed to each candidate in rotation, so each candidate gets a chance to respond first. And you can ask me to repeat questions as you need to. The first question is going to actually go to, when we drew lots, we'll now go to, let's see, that'll go to BK, the first question, and then Chuck will answer second. And then we'll rotate who starts the first question from there. The first question tonight is, describe your qualifications and experience for this office and your reasons for running. How would you be an asset?
Wow. Thank you for that question. Let's see, I'll make sure I'm not muted here. No, okay. No, I have a 30-year experience as an engineer. I have a PhD in mechanical engineering, and I worked as an engineer, a team leader, a manager at the GE Research and Development Center, working for the entire company. I have managed teams, I have managed multiple projects, and I worked on all kinds of factories and devices, ranging from appliances to diesel engine locomotives to aircraft engines. These have involved large teams of people, and I was responsible for the overall project. I know how to work in a complex organization where people need guidance, they need support, and they need to be encouraged to have the guts to change, to have the guts to take a step and to be creative. So that's my background, and I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Chuck?
Yeah, I've been in the position since March, which obviously gives me a running start into why I think I'm qualified. My qualifications, as I indicated in the opening, I have an undergraduate degree in communications, an undergraduate degree in civil engineering, and a master's degree in public administration, which really melds both the engineering and public, sector knowledge. As the director of real estate for Stewart Shops, I've participated in over 500 municipal meetings, which includes planning boards, zoning boards, town boards, and city councils. In addition to that, I'm a regular attendee and presenter at the Saratoga County Planning Conference, where I've created a land use Jeopardy game, and last year hosted the first advanced level Jeopardy game, which focused primarily on implications of seeker and the municipal approval process. Working at DPW, it's a municipal system. It's not it's different than an industrial system. So when you consider things like advanced metering and looking out at our water system, that's the skill set that I have. All of my projects are municipal based, and include not only water, but also traffic and transportation infrastructure as well.
Thank you, Chuck. The second question is going to actually go now first to you, Chuck. And it is, what are the priority issues facing the community and how would you address them?
Yeah, that was actually the 4-1 vote 411 question as well. I mean, I think that the unique form of government that we have, you're responsible for both your department and sitting on the city council. I do think that the water infrastructure is a component of what we have to do in DPW, but I also think that we have to look at, the roads and paving. But primarily we have to talk about the budget. This year's DPW budget came in at, $2.5 million, approximately less than the 2025 annual budget. And none of our nonprofits were funded through the budget. So you have to balance the needs of your department while simultaneously taking into account the needs of the citizenry. To me, reinstating the funding for our nonprofits, particularly RISE, the Preservation Foundation, and the Senior Center, run parallel to the work that we're going to do in DPW, because it's not just about plowing and paving. It's about the citizenry as a whole. I do think that we were done a disservice by not seeing a budget that was fully funded for all of our requests, including the nonprofits. But I'm optimistic over the next couple of weeks we'll work through something like that.
Thank you. BK?
Yeah, I believe, as I said before, I believe the number one issue facing Saratoga Springs, specifically the Department of Public Works, is water. A recent report that was issued and delivered to our Public Works Department in March of this year essentially says that our major source of water, which is Loveberry Lake, is degrading both in quality and in quantity. And my understanding is that there's nothing in the budget right now to address any of the things that are in that report, any of the recommendations that were made. Number two, other than water, there are other issues that the city is dealing with. One of the issues I'm very much concerned about is overdevelopment. We have a lot of condos and big buildings and so forth being built. They're all putting a strain on the city in terms of infrastructure and their use. And I think we have to see where do we want to be? Where do we want to go at Saratoga Springs? And do we have the infrastructure to support it? We also have important issues related to the homeless and also to the affordability, even for workforce housing, for people who work here and people who want to have their children live in the city. The issue of affordability of housing is very important. And there are issues in planning and permitting and so forth that really apply to that.
Thank you, BK. Chuck is going to use one of his 2 additional minute times. So
Yeah, I just, the report Mr. Karamati referenced is one that I emailed to him. And subsequently, I think it's important to acknowledge that in June of this year, the city council passed a resolution awarding a contract to CT Mail Associates in the amount of $115,000 for exploratory services regarding water. And then subsequently in September, we passed a $15,000 supplement. So it's not the question of whether we are or are not addressing our water sources, but how. The second thing that Mr. Karamati fails to contemplate is that while the primary source of water is Loveberry Lake, we do get water from Bog Meadow and have a geyser well field. So the 2 recommendations in the Barton and LaJudas report, a firm that I previously worked for, were either dredge Loveberry Lake or identify additional sources. And because of the ongoing dam project and disturbance to sedimentation, dredging was inappropriate, and identifying additional sources what was sought.
thank you. BK has also asked for an additional minute, but I'm going to remind both candidates that we're going to try to keep the discourse around the issue and not at each other personally, so that we've agreed to that in the guidelines. All right, BK, your additional minute.
Yeah, I just want to point out that the request for proposal that Mr. Marshall is talking about that was issued in June has been in the works in the Department of Public Works for several months, even before he got into office. So I am talking about anything that relates to the revelations in the March report of Barton and LeJudas, which he kept, which he did not disclose. And I could repeat.
Okay,
There,
BK.
yeah.
We're
Yeah,
not going to attack each other tonight. So
no,
we'll
no,
just
no, no. I mean,
keep it to the
it's a,
issue. Thank you.
yeah, the issue is that there's nothing in the budget addressing major concerns for the people of Saratoga Springs. And to me, that's an issue of not addressing a very important problem for the people.
Thank you.
It's not a personal issue. It's an issue of management.
Okay, thank you. All right, the third question is going to go first to BK. And again, remind you from everyone from really directing things right at the other opponent. We can talk about the issues without pointing fingers. The third question is, the Department of Public Work also, often needs to work closely with the mayor, other commissioners, and other departments to manage permits, records, and public information. How will you build cooperative relationships with other elected officials while maintaining the independence and accountability to the people in the community?
Yeah, thank you. I'm not in love with our form of government. And I've made recommendations in the past to change it. But I understand and appreciate the current form of government. And all I can say is that in my 30 years experience, I worked with different managers representing different technology portions of of products and factories. And I've managed to work with them collaboratively. And we all were fighting for the same budget. And we all had to make sure that we are getting the share that meets the best needs of the company we're working for. So I'm going to be reaching out to my colleagues and try to have all of us try to wear a big hat. All of us try to work for the good of Saratoga Springs as a whole and honestly discuss with each other what is really best for Saratoga and where the risks are and where the benefits are. That's the approach I've used before. It's the same approach I'm going to continue to use as Commissioner of Public Works.
Thank you. Chuck?
Yeah, I mean, the form of government to me is irregardless because everything boils down to people. I mean, nothing in my realm prevents me from getting out of the Department of Public Works office and walking up to see Susan in the planning office or Patrick in the building department or any of the other commissioners and certainly the mayor. Having served on the planning board, I'm intimately familiar with the Laserfiche process that we use for storing documents and the website that where we archive our minutes. Having completed 500 municipal meetings, coordinating and working with others is something that I do on a regular basis. And the reality is that I form collaborations and work with different people, including relevant professionals. So I don't think it really matters the form of government, but I do think that I work across party lines and, work amongst the other commissioners to get things done.
Thank you, Chuck. The next question is go first to you. Please describe your experience managing people. How will the demands of the position call on your management skills?
Yeah, I think that, with the short time span that we came in, I think the first thing that I did was I picked a very competent deputy. In the commission form of government, having a competent deputy is probably one of the most important decisions that you'll make. In my decision-making process, I picked Tad Romer. Mr. Romer is a licensed architect and also a Democrat. So I don't do party affiliations because I think the work is too important and instead chose an utmost professional. The second thing I did is I left the executive assistant to former Commissioner Kaczynski who's also a Democrat, in as the executive assistant, and that transition, that helped the transition, who, is a day-to-day person. Ultimately, the Department of Public Works has a series of consummate professionals, the street supervisors. Many of them have been there more than 20 years. Mike Feach, who runs the business office, has been there about 10 years. James is the city engineer, is probably the newest, but again, a professional and someone that I dealt with at the planning board. I do think that you have to direct people and nudge them. I do not think you have to micromanage in order to be an effective leader. And I think the leaf pickup schedule is something that shows that. There was a resistance to change because it hadn't been done, and yet we're doing it, and we're doing it well.
Thank you. BK?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. Please describe your experience managing people. How will the demands of this position call on your management skills?
Well, when I became a candidate for this position, I really looked at my background, and I was myself very much, surprised, and at the same time elated that really my background really fits very much right in. In the 30 years that I worked with General Electric, I have managed groups as small as 7 when I got started to as large as 30 before I assumed other positions in the company. And I have worked with people who were in my group as scientists and engineers, and also people who had to get things done for us, who were people who were members of unions, working in our shops, working in our plumbing shops, our facilities people. And I've also worked around GE's factories, where it had union workers on the factory floor, and I had to work with them to come up with new processes and better skills. So I have worked with a lot of people of different backgrounds, at low and high levels in a corporation, and I've managed to get a lot of things done over 30 years. So I'm very comfortable with being and looking forward to being in a new environment where my role will be to motivate people and to get them to do the things that are most important for Saratoga Springs. I'm really looking forward to that. And one of my areas of things that I worked on is how to manage change in an organization. That was a huge topic at GE at that time. And I think I'm going to be facing similar things in DPW because they need to change in some ways.
Thank you. BK, this next question will go first to you. A Times Union article published this Saturday, October 18th, reported on problems with the Saratoga Springs water supply, specifically the loss of capacity, the loss of billable water, and the loss of water quality and the potential risk to public health. How will you deal with these 3 problems?
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, first of all, we need the number one thing that I will do technically is to measure the leakage rate from our pipes. We all talk about pipes leaking, but nobody knows how much is leaking. I'm going to figure that out. One of the first things I will do. Number 2 is that we got to level with citizens of Saratoga Springs. They need to know what conditions our water infrastructure is, and they need to understand when I ask for resources to address them, they need to understand that this is for their own good. This is for the good of ourselves and our children and all the people who are going to live here after we're all gone. So the priorities to address for me, number 1 is going to be water, and the issues that are raised in the Barton and LeJudas report are really concerning. And so far, I have not seen resources being put into that area. I think that's what would be priority number 1 to be done.
Thank you. Chuck?
Yeah, I mean, this is the second water question that we have, what's become a theme. But again, the leakage is actually identified in the 2024 annual water report in the realm of about 20%. The report doesn't take into account about 20 or 35,000 different connections. It doesn't speak to hydrant flushing, or maybe we should, close off the sprinkler pads and stop those, because those aren't metered either. But at the end of the day, there hasn't been anything other than, the 2025 Barton and LeJudas report, which actually the findings were issued in 2024 to then Commissioner Kaczynski but ultimately nothing acted upon until the March 7th issuance of the RFP. But I do think that water is a critical resource, and it's one that we have to take into consideration as we move forward. But the resources are a real thing. I think it's irresponsible to think that, you know, we can build a secondary treatment plant and bankrupt the system for $40 million. But we did do a RFP for finding additional sources that was awarded, and it was since supplemented. As I said earlier, doing dredging would be irresponsible with the ongoing dam project. And there's approximately $170,000 left from the dam project to contemplate dredging upon its completion, which could be a 2026 decision. While it is critical, the water is not imminently dangerous tomorrow, and my kids drink it.
Thank you, Chuck. BK has asked to use his final additional minute. Time, are
Yeah.
you ready?
I'm not insinuating at all that the water is dangerous. The water is safe. We add enough chlorine in it, so there are no bacteria, and it's safe to drink. The problem that I have with all of this is that when we talk about leakage rate, there's some amount of water that is used that's unmetered, and it's called leakage, but that's not what I mean by leakage. By leakage, what I mean is the part that is leaking out of the pipes because of pipe failures, because the corrosion in the pipes are so old, some of them have corroded to the extent that water just leaks out of them. When I was building my house, those leaks were flooding my basement, and DPW had to come and fix it. The first thing I'm going to do is to try to quantify how much that leakage, real leakage is, and DPW as it stands today, they have no idea what it is.
Thank you. The next question is going to go first to Chuck. What specific plans do you have to support our unhoused residents?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that we have to do whenever we talk about the unhoused, and it doesn't matter, you know, if we call them the unhoused or are homeless, we have to realize that we're talking about people and about people that need help. In April, when RISE issued their letter indicating that they were going to close the low barrier shelter on Adelphi Street, that was one of the first things that I said, and for lack of better terms, a call to arms. Since that time, I have recommended the sale of 5 William Street, which is a city-owned property that actually currently houses RISE's administrative offices while their Adelphi Street facility is under construction. I support the sale of 5 William Street and the establishment of an assignment for homeless services. As the county looks to build its permanent code blue shelter on Boston Ave, I do think a collaboration would be beneficial long term. But I do think that the sale of William Street for the identification or the isolation of resources is the most critical first step.
Thank you, Chuck. Now we'll hear from BK.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. What specific plans do you have to support our unhoused residents?
Well, my understanding, one of the things I know is that the issue of the unhoused is a county issue. The charter of our city and the charter of the county and the laws of the state of New York put that responsibility on the county. Unfortunately, we're dealing with a Saratoga County that is really not very representative when it comes to how things are done and how budgets are allocated. So people in Saratoga Springs need to understand that there's a county structure over us that is not meeting its responsibility where the responsibility really is. I think when we vote for things for our representatives to the county and so forth, we need to keep that in mind. When people know that, people will take action and require the county to take steps to really meet their responsibility for the unhoused in our country. I mean, in our city. And in the meantime, we need to do what we can do for the unhoused. We don't want them to lie around in the streets and freeze to death or anything like that. We just have to do that. And Saratoga Springs has managed to do that in some way, but not the best way. So it's a very difficult issue. I really don't have any bright ideas about it, but I really think we need to push the county to do more.
Thank you, BK. This next question will go first to you. How do you respond to criticism?
I listen. I try to understand. I try to see what I can do, try to put myself in the position of the person who's criticizing, and do my best to see what I'm being told or what the issue is. And I feel like I'm a very responsible person. I want to meet my commitments and my obligations. And when I'm criticized, maybe if I've hurt somebody or something, I need to know that. And I know that I'm not perfect. I know that I make mistakes. And I know that I deserve criticism now and then. And I'm very thankful for people who come and in a constructive way tell me the things in which areas that I've fallen short. So I'm open to it and I accept it and I try to deal with it.
Thank you. Chuck?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's two forms of criticism, right? I mean, there's constructive criticism where someone is genuinely trying to guide a situation or a person in a corrective path, and then there's baseless attacks. So I welcome constructive criticism, and I try to avoid baseless attacks. I think that politics in our society has gotten too divisive. As a former member of the Independence Party, the Purple Party that was able to work with both Republicans and Democrats. I was someone who, went toward the middle, and someone that had tried to, not categorize people. So I think that at the end of the day, criticism should be welcomed and encouraged, provided it's constructive criticism. And I just think as a society, we need to step away from baseless attacks.
Thank you, Chuck. The next question will go first to you. Can the current use and rentals of the carousel, the casino, and other city facilities be expanded or improved upon?
Yeah, I mean the carousel, casino, and current city facilities on the revenue side came in over budget this year, which is obviously a welcome addition to the budgeting process. However, in the proposed 2026 budget, the expenses associated with man hours for those are diminished. So I think that what we have to do is we have to build into the budget the man hours necessitated to operate those facilities. Leo O'Neill, who runs the Canfield and actually does the rentals for the park itself, is great. She's identified additional sources of revenue. We're going to pursue them. And that's it. As someone who was married at the Canfield, one of the best days of my life. I think that it's a gem to the city and one that we should definitely explore how to use more. And one of those things I heard is like using it for daily luncheons and business outings. So yeah, I do think that we can expand the uses. Again, coming in over revenue budgets are great. And I think, I welcome the opportunity to expand that.
Thank you, Chuck. BK?
Would you repeat that, please?
Sure. Can the current use and rentals of the carousel, the casino, and other city facilities be expanded or improved upon?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things Chuck and I have in common. We both had our marriage ceremony at the Canfield Casino, apparently. Is that what I heard, Chuck? And
Yeah, we did not marry each other. That was a joke, BK. Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, no, right. Okay. So we have that in common. Look, I believe that the city has great resources. The city has a great reputation. We can use better maintenance of our facilities, and we can use better marketing of our facilities. Canfield Casino has a lot of potential. and it can be marketed a lot more than we are doing today. And I don't know exactly what the expansions are that Chuck referred to, but I would really support looking into that and seeing how we can make better use and more profitable use of these assets that we have in the city that are so valuable to us. A lot of other people would love to come here and have their ceremony at Canfield Casino.
Thank you. The next question is, what part of the city's infrastructure needs most urgently to be upgraded, and how would you do that?
Is that to me?
That is to
I
you,
think,
BK. Yes.
okay. I think we have covered this already. Don't want to take a lot of time. We have a water infrastructure that is in peril. Our water quality is degrading. There's threats of cyanobacteria growing in the water, and we have not worked enough with these communities surrounding the watershed of Ludbury Lake that's in Wilton and in Greenfield and other places that the water comes from, to work with them to keep nutrients away from the water that enters the lake and allows the growth of these bacteria that leads to the deterioration of the water quality. The quantity is also degrading because silt is flowing in and these things need to be dredged once in a while. And we have completely not addressed any of these issues over the years. Yeah, there's a dam that we have just built, and we were forced to build it because the state told us we need to build a dam, but we haven't done really anything proactively. We have changed water pipes here and there, but there's a lot of water pipes that we have in the city that are corroding and degrading and leading to leaks and interruptions. We have a lot of work to do to bring our water infrastructure up to speed, and we need a long-term plan with milestones, numbers, and investments to address it in the next 10, 20, or whatever years that people are willing to take to upgrade our system.
Thank you, BK. Chuck?
It's obvious Mr. Karamati is very passionate about water, and again, I reiterate that
Yes.
it's a concern that all citizens should have. But I think that one of the things that's missing is that we have an opportunity to invest in advanced metering, which would deploy new meters throughout the city, and those meters can act as leak detection, as citizens are able to access their accounts from remote areas. So if you are in Florida, if you're a snowbird and you see that there are water usage when you're not home, you can notify your neighbor and it can be addressed. But besides water infrastructure, which is obviously critical, I did touch on the fact that we paved twice as many roads as last year. One of the big things that I think is missed and has been missed in the city's budgeting is connectivity. And going through a recent project on Grand Ave, I was able to identify that the city has underspent its state touring route funds. And after the Grand Ave project and commitments along Church and Van Dam streets, we'll have a balance of $5 million. That'll enable us to connect the Saratoga State Park to Nelson Ave by the Crescent Ave connector. And then subsequently, we're going to do an RFP in the coming weeks for the Excelsior Spring Ave. So it's not just about water, while it is critical. It's about getting around our neighborhoods and making sure they're interconnected and achieving the comprehensive plans, complete streets, Greenbelt Trail, and the ADA compliance.
Thank you. The next question goes to you, Chuck. What do you see as the greatest strength of the Saratoga Springs Department of Public Works staff, and how would you build on that strength to improve city services?
Yeah, without a question, the greatest strength of the city of Saratoga Springs staff is bottom line, it's the people. Since becoming DPW commissioner, we've had the opportunity to have two different promotions within the department on the utility side. Those people are direct customer service related people, in addition to which they notice patterns, particularly in people's billing, and then they go through and address them to establish policy changes or make recommendations for how we can better serve the citizenry. The second thing is in the utilities and street crews. I mean, you have hundreds of years of experience in DPW people that are willing to go out in the middle of Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas to work on water main breaks and any other type of emergency DPW handles. It's my responsibility to make sure that they have the resources that they need and the mechanisms in place to control it. But by no means am I going to attempt to tell someone that there's a better way to use a shovel. Those guys do it. They do it well, and they do it every day. So I'm not going to micromanage any DPW employee who shows up on a regular basis.
Thank you. BK?
What was that question? Could you repeat that, please?
Sure. What do you see as the greatest strength of the Saratoga Springs Department of Public Works staff, and how would you build on that strength to improve city services?
Yeah, I agree with Chuck that from what I've seen, the people who work in the DPW are all dedicated. They are good at what they do, and I love them. They came and changed the fire hydrant at the corner of my house. I watched them. It was quite a show, and they know what they're doing. What is missing in DPW is good management. Is the management, the people know how to use their shovel, but management and engineering tell them what to do with that shovel. What is it that they need to build? DPW has been all over several times they appear at the same location to fix a flooding issue or a leak issue or whatever, and they have to come back again and come back again, and still people are not satisfied. To me, the issue in the DPW is that the management needs to be more proactive and less reactive. And when they fix something, they need to do it right the first time. That's what's missing.
Thank you, BK. We're coming to our last question, and that will go first to BK. How will you learn what's on the minds of residents?
Aha, great question. One of the things that I want to do in DPW is that I want everyone to have an app on their phone, that they take it, they click on it, they get hold of DPW, they tell DPW what the issue is, and they get an answer in 24 hours. I have done that I have contacted DPW myself with some issues, and I never hear what happened. It takes months. Then you have to write an email or whatever. So what I want to do is to make DPW more responsive to what people are saying. If you're not listening to people and communicating with them and, making sure that they hear us, then we don't know really what people are thinking. So I'm going to put that in place so I understand better what it is that people want from us. Then I can start evaluating myself and giving myself a grade from, A to F as to how good I'm doing, how well I'm listening to the people who really want our services.
Thank you. Chuck?
An app sounds great. I'm uncertain that the city's IT department can support it, but I don't know why we're duplicating the service that the E11 system already provides. Again, I think that, a lot of the things that have been discussed, DPW has ongoing solutions for. And one of those things is, sorry, my dog just decided to come over and get pet. One of the things that DPW does is they have an E11 system. Those cases are tracked. We're able to assign them to relevant supervisors and then ensure that they're mitigated. So while, more technology sounds great, I think that using that money that would have been suited for developing an app would be better suited actually putting it into the ground in some type of infrastructure improvement. So I think that the system that we have for reaching out and contacting DPW is efficient. And I'm unfamiliar with any citizenry that hasn't been or hasn't had their complaint addressed.
Thank you, Chuck. Now it's time for our closing statements. Chuck is going to give his closing statement first. And candidates, you have just 1 minute for a closing statement.
Again, I think that tonight's shown a difference between two people that both care about the city of Saratoga Springs and just are going to go about it quite differently. I'm taking a global approach to DPW, inclusive of water infrastructure, our roads and trails and connectivity, and then serving as a member of the city council with solutions like selling William Street to fund our homeless and other, initiatives that you have to undertake at the city council. I don't think that you could only focus on one issue, because DPW touches the lives of so many people, including the roads that we pave and subsequently plow. Both of us have experience. I think mine's more attuned to DPW and the specific needs of the department. And I think that voters should vote for me because of that. It's time to move DPW forward in the right direction, and things like advanced metering and a leaf pickup schedule are indicative of that, in addition to moving trucks out of our downtown and moving the DPW garage.
Thank you, Chuck. BK, your closing statement?
Thank you. I would like to thank the league again, and also thank the audience who are taking the time to be informed in preparation for voting, with early voting starting this Saturday. I urge you to think about two things before you vote. One, water. How important is water in your lives? And how important is it for Saratoga Springs to have a reliable, safe, and plentiful supply of water for years to come?